right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. There are so many people doing so many great things out there, and we don't really know how they do what they do. If you try to imagine, how does a policeman do his job? How does a fireman do his job? You might have some idea. How does a person do his job or her job if their job is to make young people realize that they are important, that they are valuable, that they have a gift, that there's something they can do that is absolutely unique to them and that can make their whole lives so much better? It is a challenge to even think about how to do that, let alone to step into the shoes of somebody who does that and do it yourself. I had a small taste of this years ago. I was much younger. I worked at a juvenile detention center. And I remember sitting in the room. It was a concrete room. There was not much. I think it was a little tiny mattress, and this kid was incarcerated for something, or at least under charges of something. And I don't remember what it was, but he was, oh my gosh. I mean, he was just a young kid. And when I say young, maybe 16 or 17. Mm-hmm. So he was on that cusp between being a child and being a man. Mm-hmm. You know, for all intents and purposes, he was a young man. He had a young man's voice. And he was just so despondent, just so down. And I said to him, you know what? I don't have a magic wand, but I'm going to tell you the secret to having the house that you would like. Maybe it won't be a mansion, but it'll be a beautiful house. You'll have a driveway with a car in it. You'll probably have a wife and some kids. How would you like that? Have a vacation at least 2 or 3 times a year? Mm-hmm. Oh, man. He was, oh, gosh, if you can tell me what I need to do to have that. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, here's the secret. Get an education. Get a job. Walk the straight and narrow. Don't be stealing candy bars anymore, whatever it is he did. You know, and it's hard to help somebody who's done something so horrendous that they'll never get out of a prison situation. But most of these kids did not fit into that category. Our next guest has done this way more than I ever will. I am so impressed by what he has done, and he's written a book about it, and I love the title. The title is Painting Pictures. Our guest, I don't know where he's calling from. I'm looking forward to finding out. His name is Corey James. He's the founder and CEO of Painting Pictures, which is described as a nonprofit organization dedicated to making an impact in the lives of disadvantaged youth. Mm-hmm. You can put it into words, but it doesn't mean it's easy to do. He's a youth mentor, a group facilitator, a motivational speaker. He leads the New Jersey State University Rutgers Future Scholars Program. He's a hero as far as I'm concerned, and I haven't even met him yet. Painting Pictures, reframing the world of inner city youth. Corey James, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Good. You do an amazing thing, and I haven't even said 2 words except for good morning. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate it.
Where are you calling from? Where are you in New Jersey right now?
I am in New Jersey, yes. I'm in Bloomfield, New Jersey, where my residence is. And I work primarily in the city of Newark, which is about 10 minutes down the road.
Okay. I'm sort of familiar with Newark, but not that much. I flew into Newark a lot and drove around it a few times just to see what it was like. That's about the extent of it. But I'm from New York. But let me ask you, and then the same thing could be true in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The same thing could be true in Miami, Florida, right? I mean, we've got disadvantaged youth because of their surroundings. It's a weird and rough world, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so I think the greatest battle is their environment. Typically, when I talk to young people, I usually ask them, what is your greatest battle? What do you believe is the greatest thing that really keeps you bound, that keeps you trapped? And they will say, it's my environment. It's where I'm from, the mentality of where I'm from, those influences around me, and then just overall feeling like where I'm at is a dead end because they haven't seen anything more. And
they don't know what they have that can get them out of that mess.
They don't, because they don't typically have the examples before them, because what we see are cycles, generational cycles. So what they're going through, their parents have gone through, their grandparents have gone through. So this is the norm for their life.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you have older folks in your family who've gone through that same path and they're 60 or 70 years old, and you say, how do I get out of this? Unless you've got a really wise elder, and a lot of times they are, I'm not saying they're never, but sometimes they are just down, you got to live with it, this is going to be your life. You get the negative I'm sure it's loving.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's meant with good intent. Have you seen there's a movie out? It's a Disney movie. I don't know what it's called, but it's about a young girl. I think she's in Africa, and she's really good at chess. And she lives in this very poverty-stricken area, and somehow she's able to pull herself out of that because of her chess skills.
Nice, yeah. I haven't seen that, but yeah, absolutely. I have heard, young people say sports have saved my life, or being a part of some kind of extracurricular activity because it gives them the kind of exposure that they don't get at home. So I can understand how the chess game and tournaments and all of that will cause someone to have new exposure. I think it's all about exposure.
And that's the really sad part, because there are parents out there, moms and dads, and they have the babies and then they just pass them off to the grandparents to raise, or they just leave them home alone. They don't really care about them.
Yeah, and it's, you know what? I feel like they don't know how to care about them because, like I said, it's been a cycle. So typically they are giving what they received. So sometimes they feel like they're good parents, but it's because of the worldview they have and the worldview that they possess to what parenting skills look like.
We have been involved the last couple of maybe 2 months or so with a talent show here in our community. And it's to raise money for an orphanage. And the orphanage I only became familiar with it because of this talent show. And they've got like 30-something kids from the age of 6 to 18, I think. And it's called the Heart of Florida Youth Ranch. And your message would go over so well there. I really think you've hit on something, probably because of the amount of time you've spent doing this. Let me ask you this: one of the challenges I would imagine you face, and I'm just imagining it because I've never really been in your shoes. I'm imagining one of the challenges is the person who just doesn't want to believe in herself or himself. How do you get past that?
I think it, first of all, takes a while. Like, nothing happens overnight. And if it does happen overnight, it's a wonderful miracle, and I'm happy. But it typically doesn't happen overnight. And the first thing to help them believe in themselves is to show them that you believe in them. And it has been, days and weeks and months where I have to continue to support them, continue to instill in them that I believe in a dream that you once believed in but no longer do. And eventually, if I keep saying that to them, and repetition is just so good, I believe that eventually they catch it and they're like, you know what? You said it to me last year, and I'm just starting to believe it. So just continuing to remind them, encourage them, inspire them, I think that's the first key. Because oftentimes we see people, like, they come into their lives and say, oh, you're great, you can be successful, you have so much potential, and 2 weeks later, a month later, they're gone. So how can I believe in a dream that you only believed in for a couple weeks about me?
Do you have to be a chameleon? Do you have to change who you are depending on the young person you're with? Like, do you have to have tough love for one guy and be gentle and soft-spoken to somebody else?
I mean, I think overall in life, yes, you change based upon the person you're dealing with. But for me, that was something that I was challenged with coming into this role, because I'm working with young people that have a background that I don't have. So for some level, it was very intimidating for me, because I see a lot of people that come into this role and they've been in prison, they've been, in gangs, they've been on drugs, and I've never had that situation myself. So I'm like, why would they even hear me? Because I really don't relate to their situation.
That's interesting.
So I felt like in the beginning that I would have to, become this tough demeanor and, be this guy that I'm really not. And I think I might have attempted to do that for a little bit and then realized that this just isn't me. And I found out being you, being authentic, being genuine, and being loving and supportive was my number one reason for being successful.
How do you convince them to not listen to their peers? Because their peers will try to make them do bad things, but before they do that, they'll try to suck them in and say, oh, you're part of my family, I'll care for you forever.
Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, it's convincing them that someone else loves them, because being mindful that the reason young people are attracted to their peers and the negative behaviors of their peers and gangs and things of that nature is because they're looking for something. So the only reason they go to this is because they get the support from their friends. One thing I'll say about the streets are very supportive. Once you get into a gang or once you get into even sometimes of a negative peer circle, they're with you ride or die. And that's what they need. That's what they want. So if you're getting that support from an organization, from a mentor, from an advocate, that will begin to teach them that they don't have to go that route in order to be cool or to be loved or to be accepted. But you can be accepted in a safe haven as what I like to provide.
We'll take a little break and we'll be right back to continue talking about this. Corey D. James is on the phone up in Newark. You're in Newark or in a suburb of Newark?
Yes, sir. Yeah, right next door, yes.
Bloomfield, he said.
Bloomfield, thank you. Yeah. Where's TJ live?
Uh-huh.
He used to live in Bloomfield. He lives in Clifton.
Robin's son lives up there somewhere.
That's
in Clifton.
Right down the street.
Yeah,
okay.
Right here close.
Painting Pictures is the title of the book, right? There's a book, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought so. I wasn't sure about that because we did not get the book. But that's also the name of the organization. Okay.
Yes.
I have so many more questions, especially how do you deal with girls? It's got to be a different approach. We'll take a little break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For Thursday, looking partly sunny with a high of 84 to 89 degrees, and Thursday night is clear with a low of 64 to 70. Friday, looking at sunny to partly cloudy skies, a shower thunderstorm in spots late in the afternoon with a high of 87 to 91. And Saturday, to start the weekend, partly sunny with a high of 87 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Evan Duffy.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 572-2510. That's 572-2510.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Just a 1 degree increase in body temperature can make it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. To make yourself twice as happy today or tomorrow or the next day, it's very simple. Do 5 good deeds all in one single day. Get on LinkedIn. It turns out 89% of companies have used it to find new hires and post a professional-looking photo.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Next time you're thinking about beating the train, think again. It takes a typical freight train traveling 50 miles an hour, 1.5 miles to stop. That's nearly 18 football fields. Don't try to beat the train. Florida's roads can be highways or dieways. The choice is yours. A message from Operation Lifesaver.
This message also brought to you by your friends here at WOCA News Talk 1370.
All right, 19 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. So imagine that you are despondent and you're out and about, and then an angel comes down from heaven and sits next to you and says, let me paint a picture for you of what your life could look like, and give you some ideas on how you could make this a reality and not just an imagined picture. That's what I think happens when Corey works with somebody. Corey, let me ask you about girls.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about girls, and I want to ask you about rock stars.
May not know a whole lot about that, but all right.
Well, and you will in a second, because here's what I see.
Okay.
I see sometimes when we're in a despondent situation, we look at rock stars and say, that's what I can do. Or football stars, that's what I can do. There's my easy out. And girls sometimes will find a guy, and he might be in it only for sex. So I'm not saying they're all that way, because I'm one of them, by the way. But
sure.
I mean, a girl might say, oh, there's my out. This guy who looks like he's got it made. He drives a Ferrari. He's my out. So,
yeah.
I mean, the what looks like a quick way out could be the worst thing you ever did, because you know why? Because you're not really capitalizing on the gift God gave you.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I think girls are, definitely a different situation than boys. And for many reasons is girls have different needs, of course, than guys. And one of the primary needs that a girl has, along with boys, but a girl really needs a dad. And if a girl doesn't have that father figure, and in the book I call it a missing ingredient, if she doesn't have the oil that acts as a binder to the cake I use in the book as an illustration, she will then go and seek other guys that, I guess, as you would say, are rock stars. And those guys will take advantage of her, and she'll look up to them. She'll be emotionally abused, physically abused, and find it to be okay because she's receiving the love that every girl needs from a man.
Yeah, and when he dumps her, which quite often happens, all of a sudden she feels worthless.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, probably throughout the entire relationship, if it is a relationship, she still feels worthless, but it's a superficial way of covering up some need that she has.
And then you will have the girls that say, well, I want to be with this guy, and if I get pregnant with this child, he's going to stay with me forever. And they'll use the child to manipulate them.
Yeah, and, we know that doesn't work at all. And unfortunately, that's definitely something that our young ladies believe will work, but the guy may stick around for 3 months and then he's gone.
Yeah. So the positive message that we're getting from the notes to tell us about your book, because we haven't seen the book itself, but it sounds like you really have figured out something. So in your years of doing this, you've developed some techniques that others maybe could take a shortcut by reading the book.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Now, when you actually were out there doing the research, since you had a really good supportive life and you had positive role models, how did you get to talk to some of the people and get them to trust you so they could relay their stories?
So it took time. It really kept me continuing to show up, because a lot of times, young people would look at me and say, oh, yeah, he's going to be around for a little bit. He's not going to deal with us long. And I have heard young people say to me, I never expected you to be here this long. I never expected you to stick with me. Like, I'm literally still working with consistently young people that I met at the age of 13, and now they're like 22.
Oh, my.
And now I'm seeing them flourish. I just had my book signing just a couple weeks ago, and a couple of my kids that I've been with for 10 years came down. And as you talked about the angel scenario, one young man came up and he said, God sent me an angel in Corey. Like, I was disruptive, I was delinquent, I was in and out of incarceration, I was just acting a fool. And he believed in me when nobody else did and stuck with me the entire time. And I think that's what it takes, because sometimes you meet these, young men, young women, and they'll typically say, I don't need nobody. And that's a defense mechanism. Everyone needs somebody, but it's because no one has ever stuck with them. So now they believe that if I say I don't need anyone, I won't be vulnerable and put myself out there just to be hurt again. So what I had to do is just stick with it, remind them consistently, stay at it, reach out to them, remind them of conversations that they had with me to let them know that I've been listening to you, I hear you, and we're going to make something happen.
Do you know, firefighters do an amazing thing when they go into a building and they carry out somebody and save a life. You're doing the same thing, except that the fire is internal. The devastation that happens is inside the person, and you're not taking the person out of the fire. You're taking the fire out of the person. And sometimes fire is used in a positive way, but I mean, in my metaphor here, I'm trying to create that's an amazing thing. And I've often, and this is going to sound silly, I guess, but I've often wondered, like, when you die, and St. Peter says, what do you want to do now? You say, oh, I want to be an angel. Isn't that the next step? And then St. Peter will say, I don't know. Do you have any experience? And I'm going to say, I did a radio show. And he said, you don't count. You don't count. But he's going to look at Corey and say, "Do you have any experience?" And he's going to look through the archives of what Corey's done and the people who you might not even know how many people you've changed for the better. And with the book, that becomes multiplied hundreds of times. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely the goal. Of course, in my time as I'm working with young people, then I meet their friends, and I'm able to make some level of impact in their friends. Like I said, the book signing, one of my young people, they're married now, and his wife actually wrote me a little note. The day I met you, I knew that you were awesome. Because of you, I'm married to this young man, and I can, thank you for making him who he is today. Mm-hmm. And so I'm impacting, other people because I'm impacting this one. So it's a domino effect.
So is it good then when you help these young people and then they do grow up and become successful, when they have children, is it a good idea for them to bring up their past, or should they just start raising their children the right way and not mention that they were bad guys?
No, I think it's important to just be real, to be vulnerable, so that when their child will encounter peer pressure, they can understand a good example of how to overcome it. Because sometimes I think we put on a facade for our children, and like, oh yeah, I was always a great person. I was a great kid. When in reality, I struggled, but I overcame. So I think the story, the testimonial, is much, much more powerful than just hiding it.
Yeah. What's the cliche? The older I get, the better I was.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say I love the title, Painting Pictures. I mean, it makes so much sense to me now that I understand it. Corey, how do we get the book? Let's make sure I get this in before we run out of time. Do you have a website?
Yeah, so it's on my website, paintingpicturesinc.org. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, everywhere books are sold. So you can get it. Painting Pictures, Reframing the World of Inner City Youth.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, is it sometimes a matter of like saying to a young man, you know what would help you? Join the military. And that's kind of a simple, okay. And he does, and then, oh wow, everything changed. And maybe sometimes it's harder than that. Are some of them easier than others?
So yes and no. I believe that there is no one recipe to success. Mm-hmm. So everyone has to take a different route in life. For the military, that may be too much for some because that's some really, really hard discipline. Yeah. And if one has never had a father figure in their lives and now a man is yelling at you all day, they can't handle it. Yeah. So that may not be the route for some, and some can handle it and will do well and be successful. Some, it may be, because at the end of the day, be mindful that because they're quote-unquote troubled kids or delinquent doesn't mean that they are not extremely intelligent. I have met some of the most intelligent young people in the incarceration system. And so many of them can get 1,800, 1,900 on an SAT and go to a 4-year college because they have the book smart. They just need some direction in life. So sometimes it's just sending them, helping them apply to college, get into a good college, and that will begin to help them get on the straight and narrow. So it's different for everyone. Some may come out of high school and get a job and then, realize they have adult responsibilities, and that puts them on the straight and narrow. So for everyone, it's different.
Wow.
There are a few people that we speak to that may actually make a real difference in this world, and I think you're one of them, Corey. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you.
It's an honor, and thank you for being on our show to talk about it. For the listeners, go to paintingpicturesinc.org?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Paintingpicturesinc.org, and call us if you need this any of that repeated. Plus, go online. We'll put this interview as a video on YouTube, the WOCA YouTube channel, and the WOCA Facebook page, and share it. Somebody will benefit from this. We're going to share it with our friends over at the Youth Ranch.
Yes.
The orphanage.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So much. Yeah, I would love to somehow make a connect there. That would be incredible.
Thank you, Corey. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Donald Trump inside RNC headquarters to meet with key Republicans, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, who's not endorsed the presumptive GOP presidential nominee, outside RNC headquarters, both supporters and protesters, as well as Fox's Garrett Tenney.
The point of this meeting, both sides are billing it more as a getting to know each other rather than trying to fix all of the problems and concerns that are separating them.
The gun used to kill Trayvon Martin